Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to the Transparency. Oh, look at that. On the money. We're going to kick off tonight's episode with this video first, and then we'll jump into some things. I want to show you guys something, two things. And you guys can all be detectives tonight. So, welcome.
Turning now to the Moscow murder case, newly unsealed court documents are revealing even more disagreement among the attorneys involved, and that includes allegations of leaked information.
Graham 2 Shannon Mowdy combed through that document today and breaks down what we have learned. Shannon?
Yeah, this memo summarizes a January 13th meeting held in chambers where the judge gave a stern reminder of her gag order. The judge was concerned after seeing media reports about the Moscow murder case, including details that shouldn't be public under that order. In the memo, we've learned about accusations of an information leak against one of the top attorneys in the case. This 3-page memo was unsealed with the names of some witnesses and their attorneys redacted early this week. The closed-door meeting January 13th included those attorneys, the prosecutors, public defender, and Gonzalez family attorney Shannon Gray.
It is an ordinary meeting to deal with an extraordinary circumstance.
Seattle trial lawyer Mo Hammoudi provided some context about why this meeting was held and why we're now seeing the summary unsealed.
You want this case either tried to a jury or resolved by way of a plea agreement once. Cases like this are not only expensive, but the victims' families will be damaged the longer it takes to get through this process.
Judge Megan Marshall called the meeting in response to what she was hearing and seeing in media reports of the case. Hammoudi says this was a stern reminder of the existing non-dissemination order and a warning for anyone who violated it.
There's real concern in this case about information being publicized before it is even introduced in a court of law.
The judge warned violators could be held in contempt and or reported to the Idaho State Bar. Hammoudi says punishments could range from attorneys being fined to having licenses suspended or even being disbarred.
In the
unsealed memo, Gonzalez family attorney Shannon Gray claimed information is getting leaked from the prosecutor's office. Prosecutor Bill Thompson denied the allegations. Hammoudi says possible leaks could damage the ability to find a jury or try the case fairly.
Because for it to come into court, it has to be reliable, it has to be relevant, it has to be admissible, it has to meet criteria under the rules. So now you have a piece of information out there that may or may not come into evidence.
So what can we gather from the release of this document? Hammoudi says it shows the judge and attorneys are committed to protecting this highly publicized case, pointing out Thompson and Brian Kohberger's public defender, Ann Taylor, signed off on unsealing it.
It speaks volumes because they're interested in making sure that the integrity of these proceedings are protected. It's clear.
All right. So, the whole point of this episode is about, in my opinion, the only way that something is getting leaked, it is not ever coming from the defense, because the defense doesn't have anything to leak, because the defense usually has to fight tooth and nail to get the discovery. Prime example. I'm going to direct your attention to now this video. So take a look. Let's hopefully see that this should be up there. Okay, I'm going to share this. Now check this out. This is from about 6 months ago. Let's see. November.
595. Those are the 2 murder charges and possession of a firearm during commission of a violent crime charges against L. Your Honor, may it please the court, we're here this morning on a couple of motions in 2021 CS 15, 592, 593, 594, and 595. Those are the 2 murder charges and possession of a firearm during commission of a violent crime charges against Alec Murdaugh for the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh. We're here for the state's motion for a protective order. So
Objection, Your Honor, we're not here for that. We're here for the defense motion to compel. And I object to the state trying to hijack this proceeding by taking over and saying this is for their motion for protective order. We made a motion to compel weeks before they made their motion for protective order. And I'd ask the court to allow us to go forward with a motion to compel.
Your Honor, both motions are to be heard today, and I think that if the motion for protective order is addressed, it makes any motion to compel moot, because of course, as the state has been clear from day one, we've been ready to provide this discovery, but because of the sensitivity of the matters here, we think it's appropriate out of an abundance of caution to seek a reasonable and minimally intrusive protective order so that the discovery can be provided. The second it's provided, there is no need for a motion to compel.
If it please the court, Your Honor, we have a motion to compel. We filed, we'd like to be heard on it. And then if they want to respond, Your Honor obviously could hear that. But we filed this motion weeks after they failed to comply with Rule 5 and Brady. And to just ignore that, I think does a disservice to this court. And
Point being here, they had to put a motion in. Yo, can we get the discovery? Can we get the discovery? Can we get the discovery? This is 7 weeks later after they've been asking to get this discovery. This is in November. Mind you, they're talking about we're supposed to be having a trial here in January. Check it out.
criminal justice system.
The only reason why those
Your Honor, I'm not done. If I could be heard without being interrupted and hijacked by the state as they continue to try to hide the ball on this case. I'm sorry if I appear upset, but I can tell you that every time we turn around, they're trying to hide something. And if we could just have 15 minutes to address the court and call a witness, we could get to it.
Your Honor, to set the table appropriately, I think the protective order, which is what started this whole issue, is the way to set the table. And I would point out that Mr. Harpootlian stood up and interrupted me as I was trying to set that table.
Your Honor, that table has never been set because they won't comply with Rule 5. They could have raised this protective order issue 7 weeks ago and didn't do it. So
That's
Your Honor,
because the defense had agreed to it up until after.
Your Honor, again, if I would be allowed to finish without being interrupted, I know he's head of the statewide grand jury. I know he's a very important guy. But my client has a right to a fair trial, and a fair trial means a motion compelled to find out what it is we're trying to compel and not have the Attorney General continue to try to hide behind whatever this is, protective order. Your Honor, open this courtroom. You issued an order denying a gag order. You issued an order saying this is going to be a public trial, and yet
Check it out, guys. So I've been doing a lot of stuff in the late evenings about procedure, because I believe this is going to, stuff that everybody forgets. Like, let's say that you're just watching a case and you're like, okay, yeah, I want to follow this trial. And then you just started watching this trial 6 weeks ago with Alex's case. Well, all the stuff that was actually happening and leading up to that point, a lot of people don't know about. A lot of people don't realize that you're not getting, like, can we get the discovery? Can we have this? We don't even know what y'all have. We want the digitals. We want what you guys, we don't have anything. Point being is because this argument was, like, I thought significant to, like, when you really think about something. They only had 1 hour a day, every other day, to work with Alec, okay, in his case. due to, wait till you see some of these parts I show you. So it got me thinking about Brian's case, but it also got me thinking about this judge. They asked for a gag order. This judge denied it. Brian's case, Idaho 4, gag order. Yep, given. Okay. So, but now what we're going to talk about tonight is the discovery. You want to start getting your hands on things immediately. You don't want to be given a bunch of stuff last minute. Here you go. Here's 50,000 pages. Have at it. Would you want to do that? So check out these last couple of bits I want to show you.
The Attorney General continues to try to make it a star chamber event. I'd like the ability to make my argument and call one witness.
All right. Mr. Waters, if you will be seated, and I'll not have both.
I think this would make it clear to you what we're asking for.
Is appropriate and whether or not the defense's motion to be compelled should be granted. And there's no reason to even get to factual, which she's failed to identify a viable factual issue that's in dispute. I know Mr. Harpootlian would love to get a witness on the stand, but to make this clear, the state wants nothing more than to have a fair trial in this case. I don't want to have to try this case more than once. I want to do it right the first time. But having this sort of evidentiary hearing this early on when there's no factual issue in dispute is completely unwarranted. Let's get to the legal issues. If your honor is satisfied after the legal argument to make a ruling, that's all we need to do here today.
Please, Court, Your Honor. This impacts the legal issue. We're not quite sure what we're asking for. I think this would make it clear to you what we're asking for and whether or not it's easily available. Again, 5 minutes.
Rule 5A2 provides that the disclosure rule does not authorize the discovery or inspection of reports, memorandum, or other internal prosecution documents made by the attorney for the prosecution or other prosecution agents in connection with the investigation or prosecution of the case, or of statements made by prosecution witnesses or prospective witnesses. The motion before the court to compel discovery, should the court grant the motion to compel discovery, the state, and as the court is bound to compel, the state then must produce discovery. The defense does not get an opportunity to interrogate state witnesses concerning the nature and extent of its investigation. So I'm not going to allow a witness.
Okay, so he wanted to take one of the sledge witnesses that were going to testify and literally question him and say when he turned over his reports and how long have you all had this stuff? He wanted somebody to the state was going to have as a witness to come up and to testify how long. Hey, we turned all that stuff in weeks and months ago. So he denies that, but then they start going into this battle of okay, that's fine. Make them compel. We want the discovery. We asked for it 7 weeks ago and we still don't have it. Okay. So now you look at, Brian's case, right? And they're having this preliminary hearing, which obviously I believe you would always want to do that. I mean, you're getting your discovery then, this stuff that you're having, right? There is no long gap of the defense being without anything for such a long period. When I saw this, I was like, holy shit. You really need to watch this and him argue and say We don't have the stuff. And then guess why they want to do a protection order? We want to redact every address, every phone number, anybody, because of who Alec is. And he is in the jail, and he could possibly be putting out these hits on witnesses. And that this discovery is worth 6 or 7 figures, and that they're going to sell it in jail. Like autopsy photos, crime scene photos. And then he comes back, Alex defense comes back and is like, we don't even want the damn crime scene photos. We're not, what? You think he wants to see that? You think he wants to see that? But they wanted a protection order on all of this discovered material. Okay. And my issue, the reason I'm using this as an example is because this is happening. This is about to happen in this case. This is all the stuff that this case is going to have to go through, is stuff like this. So I went back to the beginning with Alex's case because I believe his attorneys are very, very good. I'm a huge fan of his federal attorney, Griffin. He knows his shit. He was a federal prosecutor. Harpoon, he was actually a prosecutor as well. But these gentlemen are literally in a courtroom right now arguing and saying, we need the discovery. How can we defend our clients? And we need our client to be part of the discovery process with going through these documents. And you want us to just work with him 1 hour every other day? Like, how do you expect this to get done? How do you expect this to happen? So,
Your Honor, if I might make one comment. I'm not arguing with your decision. In the memorandum that we received on Friday, the state points out that they don't want other suspects who were interviewed disclosed. Well, if they interviewed other people that they considered to be suspects and excluded them, why aren't we entitled to that? Why aren't we entitled to that, to know who they...
Boom. I'm listening to this and I'm like, wait a second. They want to withhold who they have ever thought was a suspect from the defense. Who did you think was a suspect in this? Who did you consider to be a suspect? So then when you look at Brian Kohlberger's case and you look at the Idaho 4 case, and you say to yourself, okay, yeah, before Brian Kohlberger was on the map, who did Moscow Police Department, FBI, who did y'all think was ever a suspect? Who was a suspect to you guys? So listen to this. Listen to this.
Well, if they interviewed other people that they considered to be suspects and excluded them, why aren't we entitled to that? Why aren't we entitled to that, to know who they suspected, why they suspected them, and on what basis they excluded?
They absolutely will be, Your Honor.
Well, Your Honor,
Once we have the rules in place for the discovery.
Well, the rules are in place. It's called Rule 5 and Brady.
Boom. Once the rules are in place, what rules are the rules of civil or of criminal procedure that's already there? So this was really hard for me to watch this when I was like, I'm going back to this beginning, because this is stuff that matters, because Alex's case just ended, right? Well, all of you guys that started with the Idaho 4 case, right from the beginning. You guys should want to know about this, and because stuff like this is going to start coming up. But I was blown away with this because, yeah, this isn't agreeing with one side or the other. This is the law. This is what's going on here. Check this out.
So, Your Honor, what I would say to you is this. I don't trust the state to honor the rules. They haven't so far, as we point out in our motion. I've asked the court to appoint a special master to supervise discovery in this case. A number of retired judges have done this in the past, not because you can't do it, but because it would consume all of your time to do it. Someone like a retired Chief Justice Toll, there are a number of them out there that do it in civil cases all the time. So I'd ask the court to consider appointing a master to supervise the state in reviewing, insisting them.
Supervise them.
Make sure we get what we should get. Thank you.
Your Honor, Mr. Arpulli put in his latest filing that, as Your Honor pointed out, we got 5 minutes before the hearing started, that he knows he's worked with me on a number of cases and knows I don't play fast and loose. They put that in their motion. Knows that I'm not responsible for any leaks. They put that in that motion. They will get everything. Okay, I don't play fast and loose with discovery. I would rather give them everything because I don't want to be down the line, with anything that I had that they could potentially found useful. That's how I play the game, and they both know this because they've had experience with me before. And as soon as we can get a ruling on the protective order, because of the extreme sensitivity of this information, this information, Your Honor, is probably worth 6 to 7 figures. I am not at all, and I put this in my motion despite their recent response, at all worried about Dick Arpulli or Jim Griffin selling this information. I'm not at all worried about that. But the problem is that inevitably a number of people, as the case is prepared, have to get access to that information. And the whole point is to have this not fall in the wrong hands. This case is unique. It's unprecedented in South Carolina history. And as much as it combines violent crime with alleged corruption of someone's law license on a scale that's never been seen before. And Your Honor, if not this case, what case would a protective order be appropriate with the intense media interest that there's there? None of this is to preclude a public trial. Everything will come out in the open. All this is meant to do is have it come out when it's supposed to, and that's in this courtroom. And again, defense counsel was completely on board with this up until after 5 p.m. and Friday before the discovery was due on Monday, and they changed their mind. And I feel before I'm the one to authorize and press a button and disseminate this information that has such value, to at least out of abundance of caution say, Your Honor, if not this case, what case is the protective order warranted? And there's a few reasons for that, Your Honor. I think, and I've cited in there the Smith case, which is the Southern District of New York. Manhattan is probably the most important district, one of them in the nation. And there was an exhaustive discussion in a very high-profile public corruption case of all those particular issues. And in that particular conducts have all kinds, are complete. They have all kinds of communication. Let them look at all of it and decide what they think is relevant. That's how I play. Kinds of communications with people. Their contact information is in there. And again, I would say, given the unprecedented and unique nature of this case, if not this case, what case? But it's pointed to a number of factors that are relevant. And one of those is, of course, is protection of the privacy and the rights of third parties. And Your Honor, I think in this particular case, we have in this evidence is chock full of such information that should be protected. There are phone dumps from a number of people, from victims, from witnesses. Those phone dumps have all kinds, are complete. They have all kinds of communications with people. Their contact information is in there who may have nothing to do with this case, but we're just contacting that phone. But I would not want to get into the process, which would take forever, I might add, Your Honor, of sitting there and trying to separate the wheat from the chaff in the phone dumps before it was provided to the defense, which then they would complain that the state is withholding discovery. I'd rather them have the whole thing because I don't know what they may see in there that they think is relevant to their defense, which is their right, which is why I don't want to be separating wheat from the chaff. Let them look at all of it and decide what they think is relevant. That's how I play the game, and they know this. Your Honor, there is information in there. There's tons of personal identifying information in there that a protective order would satisfy any issues as it goes to that. And then, of course, I did mention there's excluded suspects. That premature disclosure of which would be damaging. But none of that is to preclude them from having it. They're entitled to it. They're entitled to vet that themselves and raise those issues if legally appropriate. They can do that all they want to, but it is appropriate that those people's identities be protected under protective order unless and until those issues become relevant at trial. And that could be after Your Honor rules on various legal issues relevant to that. That's a huge right of a third party. And then, of course, most of the witnesses in this case who have their MOIs, memorandums of interview, their recordings of their interview, all the rest of them, they don't want to be in the news unless and until it's a trial happens. And that's their right. That's important, something to protect, Your Honor, that they don't need to have intense media focus on them until and unless their testimony becomes relevant in the trial. These are all very valid concerns alone to justify a protective order. The second issue that was mentioned in the Smith case is ongoing investigation. And while this has been a long-standing investigation, as Your Honor is aware, there are...
He just admits right here that this is an ongoing investigation, and here, homeboy's been sitting in prison or in county. Again, this is the nerd in me that wants to just look at everything from a whole of just like, okay, I was blown away at this. I was literally blown away when I watched this all last night. I thought I was just gonna put this on, listen, and I would just fall asleep to it. It would put me it would be so boring. I couldn't. I was like listening to this, and I was like, "What the hell? Wait, they're not giving them this?" And he's really arguing that he thinks that by giving them this, that these lawyers are then going to just give this out to the world, or I mean, sell this for 6 and 7 figures. Who? I understand that you think that Alec has a big drug problem and that he. Listen to this part. I was blown. They're just trying to get discovery.
Related cases that are going on. And additionally, in any complex case, the case always remains ongoing as things develop as you move to trial. That's an inevitability in any sort of complex case. In this case, with all of the unprecedented interest, that justifies protection. Additionally, there are related state grand jury cases which are already subject to the standard protective order, which is very similar to the standing protective order that's in the federal district court. They have a protective order as to everything. And because there's so much overlap between the evidence in the state grand jury cases and this murder case, where one of them represents a long-standing course of conduct, of criminal conduct, alleged criminal conduct that culminated in ultimately the allegations of what happened on the night that Paul and Maggie were killed. Because of that overlap, it only makes good prudent sense to have all of the information subject to similar rules going forward. And then finally, of course, is to protect the process. And again, my concern is not Dick Harpootlian, it's not Jim Griffin. I've worked with both of these people, and they both said the same thing about me. But inevitably, when it's not authorized, it's not directed, inevitably, though, this information could end up down the line as the case is prepared in the hands of people whose motives aren't as pure. And all of this is done is to protect that, because this information literally is probably worth over $1 million to an unscrupulous hands. And I think we have to protect it for that reason. I say again, Your Honor, if not this case, what case would a protective order be appropriate? We have been ready, and the defense knows that. We were having conversations.
This discovery was worth $1 million? Ashley Banfield better talk to some people. She's gonna have to get more money to pay for some stuff. I just can't. It ain't gonna be $4,500. It's gonna cost you $1 million for this whole discovery. So I wake up from hearing this, and then they're about to have a knockdown, drag out fight right here. And I'm like, this is, I see the defense's frustration in this whole process here.
Conversations with them the week prior. We were talking about a protective order. They raised not the slightest concern about it. They even edited the protective order and cleared it for submission to you, and then changed their mind. And That has been the only delay in why the button hadn't been pressed in the Discovery Center. There's been no improper motive, improper collusion on the part of the state, none of that. And then as far as any issues with leaks, Your Honor, I have not leaked a thing, okay? I am not aware of anyone who's leaked any substantive evidence or any violated Rule 3.6 in this matter, okay? Leaks do nothing but make it look amateurish, make it look messy, and provide a strategic opportunity for the defense. Those who know how to handle a high-profile case don't leak because it does you no good whatsoever, Your Honor. And the only thing I am aware of are 2 indiscretions about procedural issues that were immediately addressed. And in both of those instances, it was just simply about a step in the process, and both of those were unauthorized, undirected, and were immediately addressed. It had nothing to do with any substantive evidence, nothing to do with any state grand jury evidence, and nothing like that. The way that we practice state grand jury, our practice is very much different from the feds. The feds and a number of witnesses have been testifying during a term, many of whom are represented by counsel. It's not hard to figure out what's going on, but I'll point out, Your Honor, that many times those reports were made and nothing came out because the assumption was being made that because testimony was taking place, there were going to be indictments that month, and there weren't. And the same, even in their motion right here, they discussed that as well. They point out some Fitz News article from June calling out the fact that no indictments had been issued when they were expected. Well, that was it. Everybody was looking for when the next Colleton grand jury date was and expecting indictments, but nothing happened. So why in the world would the state be leaking that? We have no motive to do that. All it does is undermine our case and undermine the process. And I'll say that again, Your Honor. I only want to try this case once. And the evidence can come out in the courtroom, and that's the place where it needs to come out. And all a protective order does is ensure, or tries its best to ensure, that that's the case. Thank you.
Please, of course, Your Honor. Let me sort of address overarching issue. Rule 5 requires a very specific, if you point out in our memo, a very specific motion as to why a very specific piece of evidence should be put under a protective order. That's not what this motion does. This motion says all of it. Now, for instance, if he were to say if he's concerned about somebody selling autopsy photos or crime scene photos, if you saw in California recently, somebody got fined jury found $15 million verdict against them. That's not the issue. If he wants those protected, we're fine with that. In terms of phone records, a protective order on phone records, if Your Honor were to grant a general protective order on all these phone dumps, that's going to inhibit our ability to talk to people, to investigate, to issue subpoenas, to do the sorts of things that we're going to have to do to get to investigate this case. He had the opportunity back in April, the day that we served the motion to file this motion for protective order, and didn't do it. He waited till the 30 days to file this, and we got it on a Friday afternoon at 4:15. We looked at it. After we thought about it for a minute, we said, this is ridiculous, and said no. And so here you are today. He wants to put a blanket protective order on whatever we get. 2 things. One, we're officers of the court. We're officers of the court. I've never, ever sold, given, handed anybody anything in violation of the rules of professional conduct, ever. Almost 50 years of doing this. Mr. Griffin and I understand he's a former federal prosecutor. I'm a former state prosecutor. Our job is to represent our client. Our job is not to create a PR storm out there. Number one. Number 2, these folks over here, I'm sure they would pay money to get something, but they're not going to pay us. And why would we share it? Again, if it's autopsy photos and crime scene photos, we would agree to a protective order on those. That we only be able to show them to people that we need to show them to, experts, for instance. Not a problem. But for it to come in under Rule 5, D1, and just say everything, he's not made the showing that's required under the federal cases. There is no state cases, or even under the state rule. We are entitled, as Your Honor has already indicated, we're limited to what we get. Although I think we're going to be litigating a lot about that, because I think there's plenty of ESI information. Plenty of ESI information. That is, in terms of Brady, let me give you an example. SLED nobody does paper anymore. Everybody does electronics. So when they prepare an incident report, it goes in, and then it may be changed. And when it's changed, there's metadata that shows how it was changed. And we ought to be able to be aware of what those changes were to see if it made any substantive difference in what they're saying today. That's why we want the ESI. We want all their electronic data, and so that we can do that analysis. And I'll be happy to enter into some sort of limited protective order on the ESI data, so that we can have.
So I started thinking about this in terms of Brian's case. Now, there's a protection. There's a bunch of people that are protected right now. So Bethany's phone, Dylan's phone, and everything to do with them, do they not have that? Does Brian's defense team not have that? Then right here, he talks about there's all this metadata behind when you're going to fill out, when you made a report, let's say you go in then later and you change it, and there's data behind that to show those dates and to show what you did and yada yada yada. By the prosecution wanting this protective order, he's saying we wouldn't be able to have any of this, and we need this. Okay. So don't you think it would be important to know who Bethany and Dylan and whatever their phones, whoever they were calling and things like that? Wouldn't that be important? But does that fall under the protection order? Because right now, all the family members and the surviving roommates, I mean, there's a protection order. Does that just have to do with, that Brian just can't contact them? So here, what you guys are watching right now, this is back months before his trial, Alex's trial happens. This is months. This is not new. Okay. This isn't new what you were watching. This is back from before he ever had his hearing. This is them arguing, we need to get our shit. Like, we want our stuff.
That analysis, that's number one. Number two, I have not accused and will not accuse Mr. Waters of leaking anything, ever. However, and the reason I wanted to call Captain Neal was when he met with the family prior to indictments, they were outraged that it was already in the paper. And Captain Neal, according to the family, indicated that the Attorney General's office, some low-level person at the Attorney General's office, leaked it. Now, I trust Mr. Waters. I don't trust the rest of his office. I just want to make that clear. Because these leaks, some of them were accurate. Apparently, of course, we don't have the discovery, we don't know. But I would ask you, if you're going to issue a protective order, make it only protective as to what we consent to at this point without a specific showing under D1. And D1 requires them to tell you it needs to be protected because of this. And if they're worried about somebody getting the autopsy photos or getting the crime scene photos and trying to profit off of them, we will not be a part of that, and would consent to any sort of protective order you want to put in place. As to phone data, as to any other reports, as to ESI, there's no protective order needed except in a very limited circumstance. Now, we're going to be looking for witnesses, and if they redact addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, we're not going to be able to do that very effectively in 3 or 4 months, which is what we need to do. The last thing I'd say is this. This is not a statewide grand jury case. It is a Colleton County murder case. The statewide grand jury has no statutory authority whatsoever to to investigate a murder case. It's not one of the enumerated crimes. It's not one of the things the legislature said you should investigate murders. Child porn, drugs, money laundering, those sorts of things. Now, if he were to say that perhaps this was something that started, as I understand, it started back with the boat case as sort of a public corruption case. And I would note that there's a statute.
So, anyways, so it just got me thinking. I'm going to bring us back to this, but if you guys really want to break down how the law and your procedures are supposed to work, these guys are like, we just want to get the discovery. And freaking Jaws over here, I call him Jaws, but he's from, Jaws. We need a bigger boat. He's over here like, I'm not just pressing send because we need a protection order on this stuff. It's worth $1 million. It's worth $1 million. It's worth $1 million. So it just got me thinking about Brian's case, and they're having this preliminary hearing, which is really good for Anne because she's going to be able to, she's getting her hands on stuff. But does Anne really have everything right now? Does Anne have everything? Because if you actually go back and you read, the paperwork, she will have or she will get X, Y, and Z. So my question is, do you guys really think that Anne has everything that, but the prosecution has? And my answer to that is no, I don't think so. I mean, do you know how hard this guy's over here fighting for? This is not a protection order hearing. You're trying to piggyback we put this out weeks ago. Okay. And now all of a sudden you want to protect this. Okay. But we're not here for that. We're here we need you to tell them to compel, give us the stuff. They have not given us the stuff. We need the discovery. And when I was listening to this and I'm like, okay, what's the date again on this? And then right here at the end, when they say that, how do you want us to communicate with our client for 1 hour every other day? He's an integral part in his defense. We have to have access to him and we don't. So how can we do this? Can we set up an office? Can we set up a desk? They ask. Can we set up a desk at the prosecutor's office and we'll have somebody sit there with him for 7 hours while he goes through your guys' binders if you don't want to give him an electronic copy because you think it's going to get passed around in the jail? I mean, this is literally what they start arguing about is that but it's I wanted to know who the suspects were. Who were these suspects that they had before Alec? I'm just curious. So here at the end they talk about it.
Federal inmates because they had a problem making their clients accessible to the federal public defender's office. And as my understanding, every federal defendant has been, the pretrial detainee has been removed from the Alvin Escalon Detention Center. I think they moved him down to Badburg.
Griffin is a former federal prosecutor, knows that protective orders are standard in almost every case, and they go just fine. Okay, and so that's really why they still haven't identified any specific problem. But with Alvin Escalon, we can set up with maybe a secured laptop and reading room. This has been done before, a manner which ensures that information cannot be disseminated and then can be retained. There are things that we can do to allow them so that Mr. Griffin or Mr. Harpootlian doesn't have to sit in front of the defendant for hours while he reads that discovery. I'm not trying to impede them. These are minimally intrusive, and Mr. Griffin knows from. So that's not the blending of those two is
Share them with experts and issue subpoenas. We can't issue subpoenas. We have to come to the court for an order. They're not supposed to be investigating a murder case. They're not supposed to be investigating a murder case. The statute does not allow it. So if they're out there asking witnesses about the murder in a statewide grand jury case, these proceedings are in jeopardy. So what I would ask, getting back to the original issue, is don't issue a blanket protective order. If there's certain things we think, maybe autopsy photos, maybe crime scene photos, restrictive use of sharing cell phone records. I don't have a problem with that as long as we can share them with experts and issue subpoenas. We can't issue subpoenas. We have to come.
All right. So going back to this then, going to share back, have a couple questions for you guys, and then I want to show you something, which is, here you go. All right. So the things that I would look at, want to know what you guys would look at. When I would be dividing this up, I wanted to know, after I saw the PCA, so you guys are looking at the same thing I have here. What interviews took place during November 13th and November 25th, which is the date that they decided, okay, we're going to tell other law enforcement agencies about this white Elantra. Okay. So why was the white Elantra a big secret? In the beginning of the investigation and when they were doing interviews, when did they start asking people about the white Elantra? When did they start asking people about the white Elantra? So again, number one, what interviews took place during November 13th to November 25th? Then what interviews took place November 25th to November 28th? And I broke this down strategically because it has to do with the certain dates of the white Elantra. Let me make this a little bigger for you guys. And when I say like who knew about the white Elantra, who was asked questions about it? Did the parents know? Did any of the parents know? Were any of the parents asked, do you guys know anybody that owns a white Elantra? Also, I believe that if you go back and you listen to all the interviews and you listen to Kaylee's sister get interviewed, it's like, where did the information come that they let out the dog when they got home to pee, and then that whole alleged, how would you know if that happened? Unless that was caught on camera somehow. So you got the neighbors that have the Ring camera that are right next door. When did the families know about this white Elantra? When did the questions include a white Elantra? Why? Now, from my understanding, the family didn't know about the white Elantra, by the way. Now, why did they hold on to, we're not going to tell anybody about this white Elantra? In terms of, why not make it known right away? Why not make the white Elantra known right away? Just like, for example, if you have a burglary or you have a holdup in a restaurant or whatever, and you put out a sketch of the person that did it. Okay. Can you imagine somebody holding back that sketch and then deciding, okay, here you go. You guys, this is the person. Well, why didn't you put that out earlier? Why? What do you guys think? Grabbing a water here. Dr. Thrifty has a nice little thing up there. Take a look at that. People can say that this has nothing to do about finding out about this. Like, oh, you're going to find out about this at trial. This is not what this is about. This is about if you're defending somebody, okay, and I have a client, you have a client, you're a lawyer here. So if you're defending somebody, the thing that's tying your client to this is this white Elantra. So, now see this question here, the white Elantra there, Dr. Thrifty. I believe that had nothing to do with law enforcement. They never went to them. It was that clerk person that came forward, and that wasn't like it was. They just came forward. It wasn't like police went there and asked them to do X, Y, Z. But I know what you're saying is that you got to go in this way. Do you have it going the other way? Just like everything that goes up must come down type of thing. If you pass it this way, do you have it going the other way? Now I want to know who, moving on with this. So this is all based off of like, media was there. So, they might not have been there the first day, but you had a lot of people there that were hounding people to try to get information. I don't think there was any leaks about this white Elantra until the police say something on that December 7th. They're like, okay, this is the day that we're going to come and we're going to announce this. We're looking for this white Elantra, because not that we just want to find out who owns it. We want to talk to the person. We want to talk to the person. So if you want to talk to somebody, why wouldn't you announce right from jump about it? Why wouldn't you announce right from jump about this white Elantra? Why would you wait till December 7th to talk about this white Elantra? Also, when you put it out to the other law enforcement agencies on 11/24, okay, because you want to work backwards to know that, okay, well, they had Brian's on 11/29, so why even start talking about it on December 7th? Heather says, thank you for the super chat. Heather says, I feel like if this case was so open and shut, there would be so many open questions still. There wouldn't be so many open questions still. Thank you, Heather, for all that you do by being here. So, yeah, they said they want to talk to the person. They want to talk to the person. But yet when they find Brian Kohlberger's, I'm not saying that Frick and Frack that found his vehicle should be the ones to go talk to him. Talking about, did Payne call him up on the phone? And this is why. So scrolling down here to this part, I want to know who all did second, possibly third, possibly fourth interviews. Who was interviewed more than once and why? What additional questions were asked? What same questions were asked that they possibly gave different answers to? When did police start asking interview questions that featured a white Elantra? What questions did you ask people that owned white Elantras on campus? Did you ever even ask anybody questions about their white Elantra? Whoopsies. Because it's going to play into this. Remember what they said? They took Brian Kohlberger's phone number. And how they were able to do this is because when they came across the white Elantra, they ran it to see who this person is. Okay, Brian Kohlberger. So let's take out the PCA. Because this is exactly how he says he did it. I moved all my stuff around. Don't clean out stuff. All right. He says, someone says they like when I pull out my pink. You guys, this is red. Yeah. I think it's red. It's red. It's red. Okay. So we're sitting at our desk, we're working. We get a phone call. Hey, Officer Payne, it's frickin' Frack here. We found a white Elantra. Here's the deets on it. Type it in. Okay. It's registered to Brian Kohlberger. Okay, he's a oh wow, he lives in Pennsylvania. He just had switched his license plate. He's 6 feet. He's 185. Oh my god, look at that face. Oh my god, look at those eyebrows. That's a bush. Okay. Wow, this description is consistent with the description that DM gave me. About 5'10" to 6 feet, athletic built, which I don't know how you get that from seeing someone's face. And bushy eyebrows. Okay. Then we're gonna go ahead and look up the fact that, oh God, wait, he had a ticket here on the August 21st, 2022. So Brian Kohlberger was detained as part of a traffic stop. All right, well, let's go ahead and pull those body cam. Let's see what's up. Okay, so how many white Elantras before Brian Kohlberger did you do the same exact thing? Like, here's a white Elantra here. Okay, let me type it up in. Oh, that belongs to a girl. Next. Okay, who's this? Oh, he's black. Oh, nope. Oh my God, no, he weighs 400 pounds. Next. Did you do all of this for every single 10,000? You got 10,000 tips coming through about this white Elantra. It was actually like 8,700, but we'll just round up a little bit. So what's your mythology? Like, how did you do this? You have to do it the same with everybody. Because why would you change your method of doing something if you're investigating something? I'm going to do this differently. Like, oh, what'd you do when you came across that white Elantra? I flipped a coin, and heads, I'll give them a call. Tails, I said, fuck it. What? Oh, yeah. Okay. What'd you do when you came across that one? When you came across that one, what'd you do? Oh, well, that person their picture was really cute. So I actually went ahead and I called and I told her I needed to come out and talk to her. And I scored a date. Can you believe it? I mean, what? You have to do the same thing. You have to do the same investigative, your work. You're eliminating people. So you do the same thing so that you can properly eliminate. So what did you do when you got Brian Kohlberger's like you ran his plates, you got his picture? Well, there should be, is that the first white Elantra that you ran? Who are the other white Elantras that you did that with? Then let's go back to the Vandal alert. The Vandal alert, they say, shelter in place hours after this would have ever happened. Shelter in place. Then they lift it because it is early on in the investigation that this is an isolated targeted attack and none of you guys are in danger. There's not some madman out there. This is an isolated targeted attack and the community is not in danger. Okay. Then why? Why did you when you came across Brian Kohlberger's name and this was an isolated targeted attack, he's not going to come at you. He's not going to try to kill you, right? When you came across his name, why didn't you call him? You said that you need to talk to the people, occupant or occupants of this vehicle. We want to talk to you. Well, we don't know, but I don't think you did. Talk to him. But then you let him drive across the country. And when he gets to his parents' house and he's there, then December 23rd comes around and you get approval to do your historical data, whatnot. Again, if he is not a danger to anybody, because that's what you put in the Vandal, you raised the Vandal alert. Then you came out and you said, hey, the community is not, you guys are safe. So then why did you have to go in the middle of the night and take out the suspect? Because it's safer to do it that way. Well, safer to do. Just what? Did Mod Squad gift out memberships again? They didn't want the perp to know they had the car info. Well, they gave it out on December 7th. When they already had, like, isn't it crazy? Do you guys ever think about it? Like, you're asking the public for help for a vehicle that you've already found. Like, nobody has an issue with that. The only way that makes sense to me is that if you would have interviewed Brian after you found his vehicle and that you bought his lies the first go around, that you bought him or whatever. And that here we'll put out the information to see if maybe one of his friends rats on him or something. So, but you never talked to him. And then, oh, because he's a criminal justice major, criminology. So when these police officers are going to be on the stand to be questioned, like, what white Elantras did you come across before you came across Brian Kohlberger's? Okay, 16, let's say. What did you do to eliminate these when you came across them? How many of those were 6 feet? 150 to 210, athletic built. bushy eyebrows. Based on information provided at WSU, so you then contacted his employer. So you contacted his employer after, okay, now let's go ahead and contact WSU. Based on information provided on the WSU website, or I'm sorry, they make it seem like it's the website that they used. Kohlberger is currently a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University. Pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for Pullman Police Department, we learned that Kohlberger's past education included undergrad degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. These records also showed Kohlberger wrote an essay when he applied for an internship with Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. Kohlberger wrote, and see, like that, I have so many question marks around that date. I have him doing his application for that in the spring of 2022. Kohlberger wrote in his essay he had interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technology data in public safety operations. Kohlberger also posted a Reddit survey. Do you guys realize, like, all this information that they got is from getting a name because he has a white Elantra allegedly, and then did you do this with everybody? Did the 16 people prior to that you would have had this white Elantra, do you know where they work? Do you know if they have a Reddit account? Do you know if they have a Facebook account? Kohlberger also posted a Reddit survey, which can be found by an open source internet search. The survey asked for participants to provide information to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision making when committing a crime. What do you want him to do his research on? He's a criminology student. If he would be, I don't know, in teaching, or I would say if he was going to school to be, I don't know, a doctor, a nurse. As part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cell towers in close proximity. So guess what? It came back negative. His phone didn't ping. Let me go back to this. So did you contact the people that had these white Elantras? Did you ask them for their phone number so that you could see if it pinged off these other people that had these white Elantras? How did you eliminate them? Because it says right here, as part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity. So what they did is they had a list off of the towers, all the numbers of phones that were pinging off of towers that were being utilized between 3 and 5, that says. After determining that Kohlberger was associated to both the 2015 white Elantra and that phone number, they put it in and they saw that his phone did not ping. So did you do the same thing with the other people's phones or other people's cars that you saw? Did you contact them? Did you get their phone numbers? Did you run and see if they've ever been pulled over And then after, let's say that once again, theirs didn't ping between 3 and 5. Did you then extend it open to say, okay, we're going to go 24 hours before the crime and 24 hours after the crime? So this is the stuff that would be handed over to Ann Taylor. This is part of discovery, right? And what Ann Taylor should be looking at is a stack. I mean, you want to talk about, she should be like looking at this like, holy shit. Look at all of these white Elantra folks. The names of them, all of this stuff should be there. How many white Elantras in a stack that has all the information that you have on Brian Koberger? How many others do you think that there are? How many do you think that's like 10, 30, 100? What if there was only like a couple? What if there was none except for Brian's? The point of this is that I'm just trying to get you guys to truly think about, okay, if you had an eyewitness that gave you a description of this is what the guy looks like. Here you go. What do you do with it? Oh, you put it out there. You said, this is a sketch of the guy, right? You put it out there right away. You don't hang on to your sketch, okay, of a guy that just committed a crime, right? Same thing as if you have a car leaving literally like the crime scene at the time of the crime that you deem. You have this make, model, vehicle on November basically 13th. And you don't release it to the public until December 7th, 8 days after you already have Brian Koberger's car, who you eventually end up arresting within like 20 days. And you know what the best part is for me? When everybody says, hi, Mod Squad, I love you. When everyone says, hey, the public was great, they really helped us. We couldn't have possibly helped. Possibly helped with the white Elantra. We couldn't have possibly helped. Yes, the public was safe, exactly. But then we have to take this guy down in the middle of the night. Did you guys read the search warrant? You guys read that? We need to take him down due to safety concerns. Due to safety concerns. What safety concerns? This was an isolated target attack. Brian ain't going to do nothing to you. You're not his target. He walked right past Dylan. He didn't want any part of her. We need to take him at night due to safety concerns. Well, I'm just curious. And then remember everything else we've been hearing? We have to seal stuff because it is, if we don't, this is imminent danger. Like, this is imminent danger. Where is it at? You guys understand when they wrote this up to go into that house? This guy writes, the most descriptive stuff as to why the search warrant has to allow us to who's ever in that house. We have to grab them by the face, grab their fingers, and we have to start scanning phones using irises, using face recognition. We're allowed to grab people's heads and put them in front of the phones, grab people's hands and start swiping. Wrote basically an additional 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 pages to talk about. And we couldn't get him to like give hardly any description of like anything else worth a damn, but many electronic devices, particularly newer mobile devices and laptops, offer their users the ability to unlock the device through biometric features in lieu of the numerical blah, 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 blah. If a device is equipped with a finger scanner, a user may enable the ability to unlock the device. So they were under the impression that Brian isn't going to have some flip phone or some burner. Okay. They're under the impression that Brian's phone at least has some really cool capabilities. And that we want you to know that people don't always just have one person that can get into the phone. So we want to be able to do this with anybody that's in the house. And we are under the impression there's going to be 4 people in there. So I also know from my training experience, as well as from information found in Google. We just Googled it. For example, Apple devices cannot be unlocked using Touch ID when one more than 48 hours has elapsed since the device was last unlocked, or 2, when the device has not been unlocked using a fingerprint for 8 hours and the passcode or password has not been entered in the last 6 days. Well, you didn't seem to care about any of this when you had the opportunity to talk to him. You had the opportunity to talk to this guy. Now you're concerned that his cell phone is not going to open for you, but you weren't concerned that maybe you could have got a hell of a lot more evidence if you would have just talked to him or attempted to. It doesn't make any fucking sense. There's no logic in that. See, what would put me onto somebody's track is if I asked you questions because you owned a white Elantra and you got all defensive with me. Hey, you're in the system. We're looking for obviously a white Elantra. But see, at the time, nobody knew that the white Elantra was being looked for. Only law enforcement did. So he can't just call, like, Nancy Grace wants to say, no one's coming forward. Why hasn't the driver come forward? You know why? Because who's ever driving that car, they're the ones that did it. Oh, no, not if it's outside of a 2013 to 2015 or 2011, 2013, rather. I don't need to come forward. Mine's a 2000, let's say 7, you know? But also, like, they couldn't kind of go up to Brian Kohlberger, could they, and say, hey, yeah, we're looking for white Elantras. Oh, you are? What do you mean? Because that's, I mean, they could say it, but that's not like it's out there publicly. But why would it be such hush hush? Like truly think about that. You want to talk to the person. So we're going to keep it all hush hush. Now all of a sudden, we need to talk to this person. You didn't think that they had critical information before you put it out to the public on December 7th? You let all this time go by? They have critical information. We need to talk to this person or occupants because we believe that they have critical information. Well, did you not believe that they had critical information November 14th or 15th or 16th? Or were you just not ready for the, how are we going to serve this up on a platter and who are we going to, to pick to be the lucky winner? Due to the foregoing, if law enforcement personnel encounter a device that is subject to seizure, pursuant to this warrant, it may be unlocked using one of the above mentioned features. The warrant I am asking or that I'm applying for would permit law enforcement personnel to, one, press or swipe the fingers, including thumbs, of any individual who is found at the subject premises and reasonably believed by law enforcement to be a user of that device or devices. Two, hold the device found at the premises in front of the face of those same individuals to activate the facial recognition feature. And or three, hold the device found at the premises in front of the face of the irises. This warrant shall be served as soon as practical. We are requesting that we do this in the middle of the night, though, because of the safety concerns with this. Why would safety concerns? That's when the guy had knives and was stabbing everybody, was in the middle of the night with allegedly dark, or, that's when he's most, allegedly going to be knife happy, is at nighttime. But then I go back to the whole thing of, I thought he wasn't a danger. I thought this is an isolated attack. Nobody else is in danger. God forbid us talk to him when we come across his car. What else? Oh, somebody deep dived Claire. Claire's a girl. How do you hear I'm here to help you with a mask on? Because they like to catch them unaware, they love night raids. So I went ahead and I looked at December 9th and December 10th of the press releases. I wanted to look at that again. And investigators have been monitoring online activity related to this ongoing and active case and are aware of the large amount of rumors and misinformation being shared, as well as harassing and threatening behavior towards potentially involved parties. Update on the white 2011-2013 white Hyundai Elantra. Investigators would like to thank the community and public for recent information provided about the vehicle and the spike in tips. Even though none of them are necessary, we truly appreciate you guys going on our wild ride. The FBI is prioritizing and vetting those tips for use in the investigation. The public is asked to continue to use the tip line to report any information about this vehicle. This 2011 to 2013. Even though we know, so is it safe to say that since this was never updated, but yet they already had Brian Kohlberger's car, and they knew that his was a 2015 on November 29th. So is Ann Taylor going to say, Officer Lanier, why did you guys never update this? How are you guys ever expecting to get a tip worth a damn when it's the wrong years? As previously reported, detectives are interested in speaking with the occupants of a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra with an unknown license plate. Tips and leads have led investigators to look for additional information about this vehicle being in the immediate area of the King Road residence during the early morning hours of November 13th. Investigators believe the occupants or occupant of this vehicle may have critical information to share regarding this case. Now, please watch an interview with Moscow Police Chief James Fry, released today regarding the 2011-2013 Hyundai Elantra and harassment concerns. The video is available for media and public use on the Moscow Police YouTube channel. Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look. By the way, got to give a special shout out to all you sizzling folks out there. You know who you are. My email has just been bumping. Here we go. Okay, ready? So I went here today to try to find these YouTube videos. Can you guys find them anymore? Where are the videos at? As previously reported, detectives are interested in speaking with the occupants. Okay, so Officer Lanier, why didn't you speak with my client? You wanted to speak. Yes, they are. They're gone. There are none. They're gone. They're gone. I know. They are gone. Thank goodness I was just making videos. As previously reported, detectives were interested in speaking with the occupant or occupants. So when you came across my client's car, did you hit him up? You had it, The Banfield cam has been taken down. You can only find short clips of it now. Unless you were one of the original, if you did your public request and you downloaded it, you have it. That's going to be a good argument. It's going to be a great argument. You know how many great arguments she has? Um, on December 9th, investigators have determined that Ethan and Xana were seen at the Sigma Chi house. At approximately 1:45 a.m., Ethan and Xana are believed to have returned to the residence. So, Officer Fry, you said that in your investigative timeline on December 10th, and then it pretty much stays this way for the duration. You said investigators have determined, you didn't say believe, you said determined, that Ethan and Xana were seen at the Sigma Chi house. How did you make that determination that they were seen? It says the word seen. How did you make the determination? Oh, because witnesses said they saw them there. And that would be for the whole time? Not everybody. So did Bethany's the only person that saw them there for the whole time? But here it says that Bethany got home at 1 o'clock in the morning. So how can Bethany be at the Sigma Chi house from 1 to 1:45 if she was home at 1? How can she be at both places? Also, it says that, did you not believe Bethany when she told you this? As Ethan and Xana are believed to have returned to the residence at 1122 King Road. It was previously reported that Ethan resided at the home, but he doesn't. You were still asking for information. It says detectives continue investigating what occurred from approximately 9 to 1:45 when Ethan and Xana were believed to be at the Sigma Chi house. So on December 10th, from November 14th or 13th, whenever you first talked to Bethany, to December 10th, and I'm just picking this day out of it just because. Why would you need to be investigating if Bethany is telling you? Like, but then you said that Bethany and Dylan were out on the town at different places that night. Now, Officer Fry, did you make the same mistake that America made? Did you think that Emily was Bethany and Bethany was Emily? Go ahead. Tell the world. I just don't understand. So if Dylan and Bethany are out at two different places, not even together, during the duration of the night, then they know, but Bethany knows that Ethan and Xana are at the Sigma Chi house, but she's not there. Well, no, then she came clean that she was there at the party. Wait, what? Yeah. No, she was there. So she wasn't out separately that evening. No. Did she ever tell you that? Well, she didn't tell me anything because I wasn't interviewing anybody. Why did you think that about, so then they're going to ask the person that wrote this, which is Dollinger. And why did you type this up like this? Because that's what I was told to type up. By who? We were just putting this out, but none of it's true. Detectives are also seeking additional tips and surveillance video of any unusual behavior. Detectives continue investigating what occurred from approximately 9 to 1:45 when Ethan and Xana were believed to be at the Sigma Chi house. So you thought that they were there. So where were they? Oh, no, they were there. Okay. Who saw them there? Bethany. But I thought Bethany was at a different location until 1 o'clock in the morning. Then on December 10th, you want to know any interactions, contacts, direction and method of travel, or anything abnormal could add context to what occurred. At the Sigma Chi house, you were looking for, you said detectives continue investigating what occurred from approximately 9 to 1:45. When Ethan and Xana were believed to be there, not determined, but you said were believed, which is key word for what you used when you said that you thought that Dylan was believed to sleep downstairs. So you believed them to be at the Sigma Chi house, but in actuality, they weren't, were they? And then you say that you are looking for any interactions, contacts, direction, and method of travel, or anything abnormal could add context to what occurred at the Sigma Chi house. So you wanted to know what direction and method people traveled? Well, if people are like hanging out inside the house, what do you mean? You think that they know how they traveled? Like, yeah, did they get a ride? Did somebody come pick them up? Any interactions, context, direction, and method of travel. That was the big thing for me. Direction and method of travel. The King house and Sigma Chi are literally right across from each other, so you would just walk across the street. Were they believed to be drinking? So you think they were drinking and driving? Why were you still needing to investigate this if Bethany is telling you that they were at the Sigma Chi house from 9 to 1:45 in the morning? But how could Bethany tell you that when Bethany's not there? I don't understand. Officer Fry, make it make sense. What's going to come out by this, guys, is, in my opinion, is that it's going to come out that there was multiple statements, meaning people were not being honest. Okay. And we just saw what happens in trial when you're not an honest person. People don't believe you, right? Now, December 10th, when you guys were still looking for, allegedly looking for, detectives are also seeking additional tips and surveillance video of any unusual behavior on the night of November 12th into the early hours of November 13th, while Kaylee and Maddie were in a downtown Moscow. Well, Kaylee and Maddie were in downtown Moscow, and while Ethan and Xana were at the Sigma Chi house. So now here you're saying that they were at the Sigma Chi house, but up there you're saying that you believe them to be there. And you want to know what unusual behavior was going on? Anyone who observed unusual behavior near these areas or has video surveillance is asked to submit their tips. Near these areas? What did you think was going on by these areas? The Detective Fry, Chief Fry, isn't there a difference between being seen between a time frame and actually like being present there the whole time? So is that a word that you guys are just using? Investigators have determined that Ethan and Xana were seen at the Sigma Chi house. They could have just been seen for like 10 minutes, right? So that doesn't mean that they were there the whole time. So they could technically go and meet up with somebody. They could have met up with people throughout that night because you don't know what they did. You have no idea where they were. That's why you were investigating, because you don't know where Ethan and Xana were, do you? So they could have met up with somebody or multiple people. What does their phone record say? Where were they pinging at? Again, investigators would like to thank the community and public for recent information provided about the vehicle and the spike in tips. Can you imagine literally flooding your tip line and having people go send you tips based on a 2011 to 2013 car that is not what you're looking for? It'd be from 2011, 2015 that you wouldn't change that. The FBI is prioritizing and vetting those tips for use in the investigation. Hey, I have this white Elantra here in Mississippi. So any good tip would get what? Do you think that it was a tactic to flood the tip line to drown out and make it hard to go through it if you were, let's say, a defense attorney? That's not what it's about. They were in the house at the time to be murdered. Absolutely. But could they have went back to that house with other people? Who were they meeting up with? Who were they with that went back to that house with them? Who took them home? How did Ethan and Xana get home? You'd want to know all of this stuff, because your job as a defense attorney, if you're defending Brian Kohlberger, is to, this little puzzle that they were trying to put together. Why? Go back and think about all of this. Brian Kohlberger has nothing to do with anything that they've ever talked about in this thing. Isn't that crazy? Think about that. What about this has anything to do with Brian Kohlberger that would lead you to Brian Kohlberger? Was he at the Sigma Chi party? Was he out with one of the two surviving witnesses that allegedly weren't at the Sigma Chi party, but now one of them is the witness that's going to put Ethan and Xana there the whole night? I don't have all of the evidence, and guess what? Neither do they. I just want to thank you guys though for all the tips. They had a bar, not sure which one early on. Neither do they. You like that? I'm just looking at this from you want people's help. You come across his vehicle, but then you don't call him. I just think you're going to have to answer. That's going to be very interesting. That's why I'm going. That's why I'm going to be in Idaho, because I want to see how this goes down. I want to see Ann Taylor. I want to see how she approaches this. Like I keep saying, how did you get to Brian Kohlberger? You don't get to Brian Kohlberger with these huge big gaps that you see a white Elantra in WSU's campus at 2 something, and then it drops off the map that you can't find it until there's a white Elantra at the house. But his phone records never put him there. I can't wait to see who's testifying to watching hours upon hours upon hours of surveillance video to pinpoint this. We're not talking about a trial that's going to happen for the whole entire case. We're talking about in June, there's a preliminary hearing. And if you don't think that this stuff is coming up, this is absolutely coming up. Because you are, the preliminary hearing is to see if they have enough evidence to hold an actual trial. And remember, Brian said he just can't wait to exonerate himself. Well, and that PA dude went hard for him. And I'm like, why? Why is he doing that? He had no choice to change his license plates because they were up. They were going to be expired at the end of the month. I just can't imagine. Like just think about it. Think about it. We need to talk to the people or person that was in the white Elantra. But you didn't need to talk to them December 14th, December 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28. But now you need to talk to them December 7th. Why? So people out there is like saying like, well, they didn't want to tell anybody that they had that car. That doesn't make sense because they tell them that they have the car on December 7th. Especially when they said they want to talk to the person. They want to talk to whoever was in that vehicle. But then they come across these vehicles. And when they came across his on November 29th, they didn't talk to him. Why? Well, because when we came across that he was a criminal justice cat, we just knew that he knew what he was doing, and we weren't gonna tip our hand. Tip your hand. We were building a case off of the fact that a guy's a criminal justice student, PhD student, 28 years old. Okay. So why'd you call the other people then that had the vehicles? Oh, because we knew they were a bunch of dipshits. So we brought them drunks in here. Oh, those kids. We knew we could handle them. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what is said. We got that all day. How about this? What if the car was actually registered if you're married, or it's your dad's, or it's your, can you imagine if that car would have come back to Brian Kohlberger's dad and his picture pops up there? Can you imagine that? That's how his picture popped up, right? The vehicle was registered to Brian Kohlberger's, though. So then they look up his his name in the system, and they get, boom, his picture. Well, can you imagine if, damn it, Brian, if Daddy would have had that vehicle in his name, it would have been, his picture. Oh, well, we got to pass this guy up, man. He's 56. God, he is not an athletic man. Next. He's definitely outside the 18 to 35 range. So next. You guys, it's silly. It's silly. That's my point. My point is that you don't get to Brian Kohlberger by the way that they say that they got there. And that this name is just given to you, and Officer Payne looks at it and he's like, God, bushy eyebrows? He's 6 foot, 185? This is our man. Criminal justice, criminology. You wouldn't even know that yet. Like, you would not know that yet. You wouldn't, it doesn't, here's your license, and it's like, oh yeah, he's a what? You'd have to like do a little bit of sleuthing to find all that out. You know what I mean? Okay, Brian Kohlberger, what is, oh, he's at this, where was this car at? The Steptoe. Oh, those are grad students. Okay. He's from PA. He just moved here. So he doesn't have connections to like, he literally just moved. Like, that's what you would find out too, is that he just moved here. So he just moved here and started stalking people. Rob Leanna. Yes, you would. The car is registered to. Yes, you would. The car is registered at the university. Well, no shit that it's registered at the university. You'd have to do that with every white Elantra that's registered at the university. And so when they didn't do that with all the other ones, how are you going to explain that? We just passed that one up. They weren't 6 feet, 185, and bushy eyebrows. Leanna, did you find out if DM and BF had vehicles? I have them as having vehicles, yes. At least BF. BF had a vehicle. Oh my God, Jamie, you made it. Woohoo! So glad you'll be there. Yes, we'll be there. How many didn't have correct license plates? Correct license plates? What do you mean correct? That idiot didn't know that PA plates, shouldn't say idiot. He put it in his PA. He didn't realize that in Pennsylvania, you don't need to have a front license plate. That's what that's all about. And the reason it says suspect vehicle 1 is because there is no plate. There is no identifying mark like a plate. Otherwise, it would say suspect vehicle and then have the license plate. Yes, out-of-state plates are common in college. They're so common. So common. Yep, 100 on that. So any lead worth a damn basically got flushed out after the 7th. I just know that they did that on purpose. That's my take on that. Marsha, how are you? Thank you for that super chat. Love. Yep, just moved here and just got a new phone in June also. Yep. We're not going to tip our hand, so we're not going to ask them any questions. Okay, so did you do that with everybody? It just And then when they got the thing, like, why would you as a police officer, you're telling somebody to be on the lookout? They just said, be on the lookout for white Elantra. They didn't say be on the lookout for like, and give like the year. Or if they did, Payne didn't put that in the PCA and just made it seem like they just said, just crazy. Just truly think about that. Think about either, because they didn't get to Brian Kober because of the DNA. That's not what happened. So everybody that thinks that out there, that's not what happened. That is a straight up myth. And you got a guy that's Vandal alert. Everybody getting to everyone's shelter in place due to we found 4 dead people. They weren't actively killed right then. They were also killed in their homes. So yep, shelter in place in your homes. But then that goes away. The community is safe. Nobody is in danger. Okay. This was an isolated, targeted attack, and we were able to do that early on. We were able to establish that early on in the investigation, as in that damn day. How? Why? Because I think Brian Kober is a crazy man. That's what I think. I think if you think that Brian Kober did this, WSU wasn't safe. Idaho wasn't safe. He just killed them for what? Like, why? Why did he kill him? Because they spit in his food at Mad Greek, so he got pissed when he went to go get his vegan. What? Because he was stalking them. Well, he was stalking all of them? That's a really weird stalking situation. Now you're on the jury, and Brian Kohlberger's, my client was there because he was picking up drugs like he did every week. What? Yeah. He had their number in there. Like he got drugs from them. That was the party house. Like everybody knows about that. So he would score stuff. So great. You have my client's phone off of a ping tower there. What's your point? He was scoring drugs from the, let's just say the Sigma Chi house, or let's just say 300 Baker Street, wherever. He's hitting off of a cell tower, not off of a house router. "12 weeks, 12 pings." Yep, once a week. Once a week. The other thing is think about this. If he's never been in that house, how does he know whose bedroom is who? How does he know not even to go into Dylan's room? All the experts are saying that house and the layout is very unique. And mind you, there's other people that are there that night. They don't get touched. It's not like they escape. They don't even get touched. He goes directly into these rooms, and that's it. Well, how did he know that those were their rooms? How would he know that? How would he know that? How would he know that? Everybody's saying, the experts were saying that this person had been in that house before. Because he was stalking them, he knew which bedrooms were theirs? How would he know what bedrooms were theirs? If you stalk somebody, I mean, all those girls were taking pictures off of that balcony. All those girls were in each other's rooms taking pictures all the time. Their social media accounts show it. They show whose is whose bedroom. Funny, I said that about Dylan's room, which I was right. But they said she slept downstairs in her room. Yeah, they said a lot of things in there. I don't believe anything that's in this press release. What else are they lying about that's in this press release? And they're not going to say they're lying. We believed that. We believed that. That's what they told us. They're going to have. You sure were, Lana. What's up, Gina Marie? Look out, girl. There's just so many contradicting things. The community would not be safe if Brian Kohlberger is the person, in my opinion. Because then why wouldn't he move on to another person or another house to because he's a crazy man and wants to, be a serial killer. Let me ask you a question. Would you come forward if you went to go score some drugs and you go there and let's say people are dead, Dylan's out of it. People can just walk in there and walk up and down, and she just thinks people are playing with dogs and, that house had so much activity. Would you come forward if you were leaving there and you just were going there to pick up drugs? And let's say that you just went there, got drugs, and then you left. And would you come forward and tell the police the next day or the next 4 or 5 days? Would you come forward and say, hey, just want to let you guys know I was there to pick up some drugs? Who's reaching? Nobody's reaching. These are legit questions that what do you mean? How would somebody know whose bedrooms are whose bedrooms? There's no theories here. This is legit just questions. Yep, I would come forward and say, hey, I bought drugs from there. I'm coming forward. Let me ask you this. Who would shut their phone off, turn it back on, and then go with their phone on, with their phone, to the crime scene in the morning that's a PhD student and knows all about cloud-based this and that, and go have their phone ping off of a cell tower. I will say what I think is the most interesting piece to me, but there is an explanation, is that he never went back there and his phone never pinged off that tower again. Well, no shit, dude, because my freaking drug dealers were murdered. My drug dealers were murdered. You think I'm going anywhere near there? They were all murdered. Or no shit, I haven't been over there. I was getting my drugs from Sigma Chi, and shit, there was freaking cops there every other day or every day. I have no reason to go there. I'm not buying drugs over there. There's, you know. What would you say about that? If you're on the would you believe that? You know, think about that. Isn't that weird though? They put that in their narrative that, hey, his phone never pinged again on after that November. Well, no, they said it was there November that around 9 it pinged off of that cell tower. And the following day it pinged, but they didn't believe that he was there. Well, how do you know that? Why do you think that? And now you're basically just blowing up your data. Like, why are you even writing that? So it pings off of the cell phone tower on the November 14th, but you don't believe that he was there? Why? So to me, it's like, okay, he would go there and it would ping, let's say once a week. He never went back over, his phone never pinged off of another tower over there. Now I think that that's interesting, right? So I thought about that. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you what I wouldn't be doing. If I was going over there to score drugs, I wouldn't be going over there to score drugs. Or if you're going to kill and succeed, why go back? Because you're a sociopath mastermind that you know that you have to keep your ticker going. You gotta. This is a person that after they allegedly stabbed and murdered everybody, didn't miss a beat, was at class every day, got their hair done, went to the had a doctor's appointment, was right back in with society, like nothing happened. And the other thing that you would do and that you would know is that you would go there to keep that pattern, right? To keep that pattern. I mean, if the cops knew to put that down to say, look at this, it never pinged again after that day. It never pinged again after that day. Look at that. Isn't that interesting? Well, yeah, you could actually look at that two ways. I don't know. Was he dating somebody? I don't know. You would go back if you lost your sheath and didn't know where. Yeah, I think it's telling. I believe the PCA admits that there's false pings too. I did a video back you have to go back and check where the family is being interviewed, and I don't ever say the family like slips up and says anything, but they were talking about in the beginning that about they already knew about like doing everything. They made a comment about the pings that night, and I thought about that, and I'm like, well, that's interesting because Brian's phone wasn't on that night at that place. So none of those would lead back to Brian because of the ping, like, and they were doing this early on with the towers and seeing what numbers were active during the 3 to 5 a.m. Well, the parents had gotten wind like this, they were sloppy and a lot of evidence, and they were talking about the cell phone tower pings. And I said, well, that's interesting because how was his phone supposed to, his phone wasn't on. So how does his phone connect to the Wi-Fi if it's not on? It's all a bunch of bullshit. None of that's possible. So what numbers were actually pinging around over there? What does the family think? What was the family thinking, or what were they told? Because it wasn't Brian's. Because Brian's phone's off. So it couldn't have connected to the Wi-Fi. No, what I'm referring to is the night of the homicides. Go back and watch a couple back of my episodes. It has, I believe it's an interview with Brian Enton. So, who said there isn't a burner phone? I don't know. They only took one phone in. It'll be interesting. But all I know is the reason I'm going is because I've seen it one too many times where the media can just write whatever they want. So I know I've witnessed a trial and other people were at the same trial that I was at, and the stuff that they were writing and the stuff that I had, I'm just like, what the hell what are you watching? What are you watching? So I'll be reporting the facts. Thank you for that super sticker. That was very kind. I'm a mess. $50. Thank you so much. This is very, 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 very kind. But I'm referring to the parents talking about that night and that there was pings and that, there's this digital and that they were under the impression of that. Well, there may be those pings that night, but it's not from Brian's phone because his phone was off. So his phone could have never connected to the Wi-Fi that night. So everybody that's putting that out there, they just would need to, stop with that, I guess you could say, because his phone wasn't on. But you could say that people were, connected to the Wi-Fi, but it wasn't Brian. So maybe Ann should get on that. I'm a mess back to back. Nothing like a back to backer. Thank you. Yeah, freckles. Woo-wee. As a well, Lynn Marie, I would agree, but he wasn't the one that was quoted saying that. The lawyer was. You know what I mean? The lawyer the lawyer said that. The lawyer gave that Brian was never asked that and had a microphone in his face and interviewed, and that came from good old PA public defender. So I guess you can ask him about that. I just believe that everybody is innocent until proven guilty. I want to see it in front of my face. I want to report on it. And I'll be the first one to tell you if they got X, Y, and Z. They got X, Y, and Z right now. A lot of question marks, tons of question marks. The procedure. I have a problem with this procedure. I have a problem with the whole way that they conducted this, to the point that they, I believe, put the jeopardy of everything in question of getting the right person because of the way that you went about your procedures. And that's just crap to me, because the victims deserve justice, and so do the families, and even the people that go to that school. And I think that they're going to let the public into the courtroom. That's what public trials are all about. Public. It's public. It's not a private trial. Have a good night, Rob. Take care. Bye, Rob. Consult me. I know, right? When someone shows their ass like that, I'm like, okay, and these people are hilarious. It's first come, first serve in the courtroom. Absolutely, it is. That's why I said I'm pitching a tent. No one pays attention. Tragic situation, regardless. Right there with you. Right there with you. Tragic just to think that, it's one thing if you're playing, if someone's saying that, hey, something would be strategic to make sure that we got the guy, things like that. You go and you read all these press releases and you listen to the press conferences and you actually look at this case before there was a name, Brian Kohlberger. How did you feel about what they were putting out there? This has nothing to do with who they have. This is how they got there. And none of this was making sense. And there may be a great explanation for that. And I think the best explanation for that is going to be our people lied to us, meaning the people that we were interviewing were lying. Okay. They were lying. They were telling us this. They were telling us that. Well, so then how credible is that? Okay, then we went with this. So they told you 5 different things. Why did you go with this? What makes you say that this is versus that? You know, so. But this is going to be a wrap. You guys are great. Pitch it a tent. Thank you, mods. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Maple Beef. Appreciate you. Very, very kind there. I'm a mess. Other people that joined as members, thank you for that. Make sure on your way out you hit the thumbs up or thumbs down. You have a voice, use it. You have thumbs, use it. It's okay to question things in life. Be kind. Home team all day, every day. Home team productions. Don't worry, I'll be having your guys those videos coming out. I had to do some things, so take care. Till next time, guys. No, Lan, I just got here and I'm drunk. Oh my God, Gina. Gina. Oh, thank you. Amanda says, thanks for all your hard work. Thank you. I do. It means a lot that you guys do notice that. The time is there that we put in. So thank you. Gina. And I want people to know that I think that Brent deserves justice too. And there should be an investigation into that. Why was he just shot in the head? What was going on? They all have body cams. Lana, show us. Lana, show us that screenshot of BK's dad infiltrating the scene. All right, you guys are funny. Yeah. Yeah, so I would love to see that body cam of that alleged situation that you did not have under control and that you'd have to shoot a vet in the head. That's just awful. That's just, no one deserves that, especially not somebody that fought for our country. That's just pathetic. So, all right, guys, take care. Night, night.